Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this community showdown between Bretonnia and the Empire. So it's going to be a Reponse facing off against Volkmar the Grim. Quite interesting. Very rare that you see the Iron Lady in action, but you know what? It's a little bit of a niche, I suppose, on horseback here. She is going to be something that can chase down and potentially do consistent armor-piercing damage here to Volkmar the Grim. Now, as far as the Bretonnian army goes, it is going to be peasant mobs in the front. No surprises there. Oftentimes, this matchup is not really won by the infantry per se, but by the cavalry and artillery engagements in my experience. So we do have Reponse as well as the life caster. If you are going to be going for Reponse, unlike King Lewin, she can't heal herself. She's not the most independent character, so having that healing support will be quite nice. In the back, we got peasant archers, which are excellent in this matchup. Number one, they apply poison to the cavalry units, and number two, if they have like handguns, they outrange the handguns by 20 or 30 and can really get those advantageous trades. And if your opponent wants to go like halberds against you, which is kind of an intuitive thing that many Empire players feel against like cavalry-centric factions, the peasant bowmen are a hardcore counter to them as well. In the back, a couple battle pilgrims and foot squires just in case the Sigmarites go for like a super heavy rush. And in the backfield, we do have 1, 2, 3, 4 questing knights, which are hands down the most cost-effective cavalry unit in this matchup. The armor piercing is very good against both the infantry, Empire Knights, Knights of the Blazing Sun, Demogryphs. Questing Knights trade super efficiently into all of those. So I like this build quite a bit. Obviously, the only really off-meta thing here in this build is going to be Reponse. Triple Trebuchet is actually somewhat common here. Trebuchets are very good at killing Demogryph Knights, and on top of that, they outtrade the Empire Artillery, which is pretty much a meme in itself. So for the Sons of Sigmar here, it's going to be Volkmar the Grim backed up by some State Troopers. So he's got Spearmen, Handgunners, Demogryph Knights, as well as some Empire Knights, and it looks like it is going to be a great cannon here. And Gotrek as well, interesting inclusion. Gotrek, of course, can fight many of the cavalry units pretty effectively, and you know, with despite his 0 armor, he still gets in there and can really sit in the grind and bring down those questing knights and King Lewin type characters. He's also very good at digging out paladins and the Fey Enchantress, who often like to get stuck in these blob fights with your cavalry, and yeah, he's pretty good at kind of being a scalpel to remove those units. So the battle is underway, and immediately Xiphos here is going to be advancing up the field trebuchets. I would imagine shooting at the demis. Yeah, oh, those are actually the Royal Altdorf Gryphites. So every single trebuchet shot you can get on top of the Gryphites here is just going to be value city and just going to be some sweet, sweet bread. Cannon fire going in. It looks like it was shooting at Reponse. You can see the giant annoying sword here that we can click on. God, I hate that tooltip. Like every time you click it, it obstructs the view of the health bar and everything. But anyways, looks like Reponse is able to dodge those shots pretty well. So clearly the Bretonnian player here is paying some pretty good attention. But now the Hammer of the Witches has switched its shots onto the field trebuchet crew, who is confident despite taking that damage there. And you can see the trebuchets probably will be returning some fire downtown here in just a moment. Hammer of the Witches has 450 range, whereas trebuchets do have 440, so slightly less. It does give the cannons the initiative. But in my experience, just from a cost perspective, I've really struggled with the Sons of Sigmar to get value from the artillery against the Bretonnians. The only circumstances in which I've had some success with that typically is using like a Deathcaster or a Firecaster and using Fireball and or Spirit Leeches to win the artillery trade. Now Volkmar the Grim thinking about coming in here, but the Iron Lady has got her greatsword. She's coming in and does got quite a bit of a punch. You know, good armor piercing values, though she does have a bonus for his infantry. Her stats still are pretty good, 45 and I think what, 66 or something for her combat stats. Looks like it's a little bit better here in melee. And Volkmar the Grim does pop the Shield of Faith, which is a good call. And Gotrek looks like he's coming out with a full chub as well to try and salvage the situation and get Volkmar out without taking any damage. But it looks like what little damage Volkmar did take was actually from the peasant archers, and Reponse wasn't quite able to actually connect, which is a little bit unfortunate here for the Bretonnians. But right now, Reponse is going to be hustling back, running back to the Bretonnian battle lines, while the peasant archers are going to be unleashing fire. And though it won't do much damage, it still does get you, you know, an inch closer to ye old healing cap, and it does also apply poison. Now, Reponse really gets peppered down by the silver bullets. That's why they're such a damn good unit. Really, really nice at ambushing. And immediately, the Bretonnians do switch the trebuchet fire onto the silver bullets. And yeah, they're getting a little bit of damage on them, but 100% way outvalued that trade. Able to punish Reponse down and really putting her down to what, like half health or something. So now the Sons of Sigmar are advancing after securing a nice little lead there, but it looks like Volkmar, is he being attacked by the trebuchets? Let's go ahead and watch this. I saw a bit of a burst of damage. Oh my god, the trebuchets are shooting at Volkmar the Grim, and it looks like they actually did some damage with one of the earlier volleys. So here we do get Reponse coming in. She's just got to be very cognizant of where the silver bullets are, but it looks like they pulled back a little bit now, and now the Iron Lady going in once again and getting some really solid damage against Volkmar. So both Lewin, Reponse, and Alberic can all deal with Volkmar pretty effectively. Obviously, Reponse is probably the least optimal of all those choices, but in this case, she seems to be doing okay. So here are the trebuchets shooting into the Gryphites now, and the Gryphites looking to find some engagements. Haven't lost any models yet, which is pretty fortunate for them. And it looks like the grind fight in the middle continues to carry on, but Rapunzel needs to get away. Gotrek is here now, and he really is going to kind of strengthen up and shore up the weakness here of Volkmar, which is fighting against like high mass characters and things like that. Nice charge by the Bretonnians. Questing Knights do get the optimal charge into the Empire Knights, but a very quick reaction from the Sigmarite player here allows him to pull back and forces the Questing Knights into a spear line, and also a nice countercharge coming in from the Griffites and other cavalry units. So very close back and forth affair. Both players clearly have some good micro, and in the backfield though, Bretonnia looks like they do secure a nice play, shutting down the Silver Bullets, and now the Hammer of the Witches probably will be hunted down by these Questing Knights, which are rapidly going on a mighty quest to dispose of the Great Cannon crew. So we'll see if they succeed. Blob fight is underway. It looks like the Questing Knights do get bunker busted pretty good by the Empire Knights Spearmen, as well as more Empire Knights backed up by the Hammer of Sigmar, making them pretty formidable in combat. Obviously, Empire Knights do lack damage output. That's really not their strong point, but with the support of the mighty Grim one, it does change up the variables of that fight a little bit. Banishment coming down, very nice one on top of the Questing Knights, takes a pretty fortunate route right there, and the Trebuchets continue to shoot in as the Empire forces push in. Volkmar is very, very low, and it looks like Xiphos is going to be going relatively all in here, pouring all of his ammunition into Volkmar, which is probably the right play. I mean, he's so low, and he's going to be such a scourge. And it looks like Rapunzel is coming in. She's got her greatsword going for the kill here, and the Jade Wizard going to be rushing in to maybe intercept and drop some healing as well. It's very interesting. Usually you don't see Volkmar the Grim with a life caster, but considering that the Imperial forces did indeed bring the Royal Altdorf Griffites, I think it's 100% necessary here. So Volkmar very low, and it looks like he's trying to juke the shots, but he's eating quite a few of them. The 100 armor does mitigate a fair amount of damage there, but you know, those peasants, man, they don't mess around. And here you can see Volkmar is sub 100 HP, looking a little bit grim for the Grim one. And for the first time in the game, the Bretonnians do pull a little bit ahead, but the Iron Lady does kind of get punished here a little bit by Gotrek with a deadly onslaught. Now she's going to be forced back. I would imagine Bretonnia probably has at least one Earthblood in the back pocket, so she will probably be functional once again. And with Rapunzel getting broken off, as well as Volkmar the Grim, oh, look at that, Awakening of the Wood going down. Interesting choice there. The battle is going to become much closer. Gotrek is going to be a little bit of a tricky one to kill. And I think there are some halberds in reserve. Let's go ahead and take a look around. Okay, so the battle isn't quite as close as I thought, because I was really focused on the epicenter of the battle here. But looking around, it looks like there's battle pilgrims, we got questing knights around the battlefield, and still a ton of peasant archers with a fair amount of ammunition for 6 minutes into the game. And on top of that, the field trebuchets are still very much alive. Gotrek will be a bit of a pain, but you know, foot squires, battle pilgrims, peasant archer fire, these are all things that can do a very effective job at dragging down the angriest dwarf that the old world has to offer. Here comes more firepower. Peasant bowmen shooting in. Halberdiers heavily countered by ranged firepower. They have no mitigation whatsoever against missiles, and you can see that's really being reflected here in this battle as they pay the ultimate troll toll. And as this 500 gold unit does get focused down, you can see the balance of power ebbing. Now it looks like the Empire is trying to regroup its forces for a big heal, which is a good play, mind you, but with the trebuchets just pounding in, it's only going to be delaying the inevitable ever so slightly. On the far side, Empire Knights do ride down the remnants of those questing knights, but not going to be a big enough catch to really make a substantial difference, in my opinion. Battle Pilgrims, 84 models running out here, can easily dispatch of these spearmen. And it looks like Rapunzel's thinking about engaging here, being very cautious. She's at, 500 HP, and Balance is kind of getting a little bit creepy here. Maybe, oh, it looks like there was a heal. Yeah, the healing of Gotrek is what did that for the Balance Power, but Gotrek will not do well being surrounded by a bunch of chaff units. He's an anti-large character. He doesn't have great splash attacks in my experience. And now the Griffites trying to get back in as well, juking those shots. Good micro here from the Sigmarite player. And they're moving in, man, trying to get those terror routes. But Battle Pilgrims are immune to psychology, so they're going to be very happy to take that engagement and grind for the lady. And also the Peasant Bowmen shooting into the halberds and other spear units that are advancing. But the last charge, the Sons of Sigmar, will it be enough to get the game back in? It looks like the bounce is kind of creeping back into the middle. Could this be a wild comeback? I mean, if Rapunzel were to get caught by Gotrek and killed, and the peasants ran out of ammo, there could be a circumstance in which maybe Gotrek could pull out some crazy victory. Big charge going into the Battle Pilgrims. They're going to be taking it like champs. So they have very, very good leadership by Bretonnian standards. Trebuchet fire still blasting in, hitting into those questing knights and those other units here. Seems to be doing okay. So Earthblood, it looks like 336 HP right there. Peasant bowmen shooting in. And yeah, now the peasants are having to draw their pitchforks and their shovels and rakes and what other farming tools they decide to use with their martial mastery. Moving into the battle here. Awakening of the Wood going down, which will trigger an Earth Bloom, assuming he has the passive, but yeah, he does. So that'll give a minor heal across the army, of course, as Earthblood does. But it looks like that's probably going to be army losses for the Empire. And I think it's just going to be Gotrek. I think that Rapunzel will be able to ride over there, cycle charge him effectively, but it looks like he did indeed leave the game. GG, well played, both players. That was a really nice match. And I love seeing an off-meta Lord, right? You almost never see her. She's got her haircut. She's ready to speak to some managers, and she certainly spoke to the manager of this Empire army, as Volkmar did not enjoy that. 1,000 value, not too crazy. She did her part, but really the questing knights getting into the silver bullets, the trebuchets were huge value, 1,000 on each of those, and the peasant bowmen, massive MVPs too. Each peasant bowman getting like over 1,000 value, which is crazy. And just showing you what units are really good in this matchup. Questing knights, peasant bowmen, trebuchets. Like everything else is kind of interchangeable, but those really are the staples of this matchup. Though I am also a fan of battle pilgrims. I think they can give you some nice consistent grinding. It looks like this one, maybe it like chased something off the edge of the map. And this build, looking at it, let's see here. So yeah, a single cannon. It was not Hammer of the Witches, actually. It was a basic cannon. I've been having trouble using like elite cavalry, like demis against Bretonnia. It's been a little bit of a tricky one. Obviously, if you guys want to go to my Empire guide, you can see the 2 builds I have had success with. One of the big ones has been actually using Spirit Leech, a flying Spirit Leech caster with either Volkmar or Boris, and just trying to snipe the enemy artillery, forcing the Bretonians to come to you, and at which point you can sometimes get good trades and force them into spears and halberds, but it's a hard matchup, and I do think it's Bretonian favored, but the fact that he brought Reponse certainly made that matchup much more even. All right, my friends, take care. Well played to both these fine champions, and we will see you guys on the other side. Take care.